Well, welcome back, everybody. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and with me is Chris Anonymous. Oh, those are some big faces on the screen there. There we go. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. We are talking about the 1993 fairy tale slasher Leprechaun, starring Warwick Davis and Jennifer Aniston. And I couldn't be more excited to talk about it. Chris,
Yeah.
happy St. Patty's Day, brother.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Yep.
Yeah, before we jump into the movie, let's chat. What
Okay.
have you done for festivities?
I'm wearing a hat that's
Yep.
green.
Yeah, I feel like your hat should be on like if we could swap heads,
Right.
we would be
Yeah.
a complete costume.
I've thought that often, not just with the hat.
Yeah, just in regular life.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you done anything this weekend for St. Patrick's Day?
No, except for watch Leprechaun, but I think
Yeah,
that's enough.
I
That punches the you did something for St. Patrick's Day ticket right there. That's all you need.
Yeah, that is a definite must do thing for St. Patrick's Day because there's plenty of leprechauns to go around, and I don't mean the creatures, I mean the movies. Like
Oh
we
man,
have
6
7
plus a
of them,
remake, so
8.
7. Yeah, 7 or 8.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
see. There's 3, and then there's the fourth one where he's in space. Then 5 and 6 he's into Hood,
Right.
uh,
I
and
think I've
then
only seen 1 and maybe part 2 and then part 5. What about you?
Part 5. I've
So in
seen.
in the Hood, and I think Leprechaun 2, but I'm not 100% sure, and definitely
I,
Leprechaun 1.
I've definitely seen all of them to 4. Leprechaun in Space, which is bonkers,
Genius.
worth a watch. I know I've seen at least one of the Leprechaun in the Hood ones. I'm not sure which one it was though,
And then
and
what
I may have seen both of them. I'm not
right, yeah.
entirely sure.
Right.
Um, they did like a soft reboot of it called Leprechaun Origin,
Reborn
which I
or
did see.
yeah, okay, how was that?
Uh, not very good. Specifically because Warwick Davis isn't in it, and Warwick
Ah,
Davis is the Leprechaun movies. Like that is
100%. 100%.
yeah. And then
Yep.
after that, well, so they tried to make it like even more of a creature feature where it's like this monster running around killing people rather than like a evil trickster
Right.
trying to get his gold back. And then I guess they did a Leprechaun Returns, which is I guess supposed to be more back to form. It doesn't have Warwick Davis playing the Leprechaun, but I think it's supposed to take place directly after the movie we're going to talk about today, the
Oh,
original
okay.
Leprechaun.
All right.
So when we do the next one, we'll have to decide: are we going to go to Leprechaun Returns or are we going to go to Leprechaun 2?
I mean, or we could do a double feature where it's a branching path. I mean, it's it's up in the air.
Like dual universe? We'll see. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
So this movie, it came out in 1993. It stars a pre-nose job Jennifer Aniston, because she directly after this she went on to go to Friends, which got her kind of famous, a little bit famous. But some people might be wondering, how did she go straight from this into Friends with a brand new nose? Well, this was actually filmed in 1991, so plenty of
Ah,
recovery time there. Um, so the movie, it costs uh, just under $1 million to make, about $900,000 to create. It was pretty successful. It pulled in about $8.5 million in theaters upon its release. Critics hated it. Uh,
hmm.
it seems like they still hate it, according to the interwebs. People still not a fan of this movie. Um, we'll maybe get into that a little bit later. I like the movie, um, but the movie really took off on home video after Friends got popular, and people were like, "Oh, more Jennifer Aniston," and the
So
movies also advertised themselves as featuring Jennifer Aniston, the protagonist of Friends.
So, not that you're qualified to say this, but would you say that because of Friends, we have all the sequels to Leprechaun?
Um, I don't know. That's an interesting question because, like I said, it was a successful low budget horror movie, right? If it
Right.
had if it well say it was an even $1 million to make, and if it pulled in $8 million, right, 8 times its budget,
I mean, that's probably enough to greenlight a
that's
sequel
pretty
too,
good.
especially if
So
you're
think
gonna
of it,
keep it. Yeah.
yeah, think of it this way: Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, those movies, right? That's roughly around the same budget and same return.
Okay.
And those movies are a bit of a cultural phenomenon. I think in the same way that Leprechaun was, in that, like, I mean, remember Wayne's World, uh,
Yeah.
where they have the little bit, "I'm the Leprechaun," and Garth is like, "No, no, don't."
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I'm sure
It
that helped it,
it was a
sell
little in the
some
zeitgeist. Yeah.
VHSs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that's in the cultural zeitgeist, as you said. And then imagine if Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, like if one of the actresses from that went on to get like a one of the top TV shows of all time.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
So I
Which
don't
I
know.
hope happens. I really hope that happens. That would be just great. That's the kind of
Hey,
world I wanna live in,
everyone starts somewhere,
right?
right?
Yep, yep, yep.
Um, let's see. Oh, yeah, I should throw this number out. Um, so after the VHS sales started going up, when Jennifer Aniston got famous, uh, they sold $15 million worth of home video sales.
What?
So so yeah,
Wow.
it definitely helped out the movie for
Yeah,
sure.
man, but I did not realize that. That's pretty cool.
Um, I don't know about you, Chris, but I always watch movies to the very end. You got to watch all those hardworking people
Yeah,
that
most of the time I
that
do.
worked on it, and you gotta wait to see if there's previews for the next one.
Right.
Um, but this movie had some very interesting special thanks in it.
It had
Did
two
you
two
see them?
very interesting special thanks, George Lucas and Dan Quayle.
Yeah, and it had like a congressman or something in there.
I mean, Dan Quayle, I think, was vice president.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it says Vice President Dan Quayle.
yeah.
I've never seen a schlocky horror movie thank a vice president before.
Well, evidently, the reason it's a similar reason that he got thanked and George Lucas got thanked, and I think it might have had to do with Willow, but he was over in England, and George Lucas released him from his contract for X amount of time
Mhm.
to go film this, and I think Dan Quayle helped expedite the visa, the work
Yeah,
visa or
his work
something.
visa. Yeah.
Yeah, so they both were like, well, he's in England and he's working on this other project, but he was meant to play this role. So we are going to do everything in our
Right.
movie and political powers possible to make this happen. And
Yeah.
thank you, George Lucas, and thank you, Dan Quayle.
I mean, so very rarely do you see a slasher movie somewhat endorsed by uh, the Bush administration,
You
right?
know
I
it's
mean,
quality. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, in some way. Let's see. Just giving some little tidbits about this. It was filmed on the same ranch as Little House on the Prairie.
Okay. I
So
can see
if you
that.
recognize that, Warwick Davis said it felt a little blasphemous to be filming something like this there. The hospital is also the same hospital in Halloween 3.
Okay.
Is there a hospital in Halloween 3? We we
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
haven't gotten there yet, therefore I haven't gotten there yet. But so some notable locations. Um, Looking at the top question uh, asked about this movie on IMDb, do you have any guesses as to what it is?
No, I got nothing. What is it?
The top the top asked question about Leprechaun the movie
Mm-hmm.
on IMDb
Mm-hmm.
is Leprechaun based on a true story? Let me answer that real quick.
Yes.
No,
Oh,
no, you stupid idiot. A movie about a leprechaun chasing teenagers around in North Dakota is not based on a true story.
I mean,
You should feel ashamed.
I'm glad I asked that under an anonymous user.
It's like, oh man, I shouldn't have spammed that question. I just
Is
really wanted to
Leprechaun
know.
based on a true story? Yes,
But
yes,
yeah,
it is.
I love this movie. I definitely went through a Leprechaun phase when I was younger. That's how I watched 1 through 4.
Right?
Um,
It happens.
I was very into it because to me, the Leprechaun was probably the closest uh, slasher antagonist villain to Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
He's my guy. That's my favorite slasher franchise. But like, yeah, having some sort of essentially trickster demon, right, really kind of falls in line with that. Someone who doesn't just kill because they're like some instinctual force of nature,
Right,
like
they enjoy it
Jason or
and
Michael
they make
Myers. Yeah,
jokes. Yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah.
delight in their work.
Yeah, you wanna see someone who can, take joy in what they do.
And there's like a weird thing with it when you feel like maybe I could reason with this monster.
Right. That gives hope in a different way.
Like, could I trick it? Could I outsmart it? Like
Could I
by
give it what it
with
wants? Will it
words?
leave me alone? Yeah. When
Right.
it's a force of nature like Jaws or Jason, it's hard to reason. You might be able to trick it like
Mhm.
they did in Friday the 13th Part 4 when he, pretends to be the younger version and he shaves his head. But yeah, but
Mhm.
that's not the same as reasoning with it, as tricking it in a
Go
rhetoric.
get those campers.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he and Freddy Krueger have that. I like your point, sir.
yeah, yeah. Classic slasher, underappreciated slasher. I feel like. Um, so anyway, before we move on, I got to get serious for a second. If you are watching this or you're listening to this, hop on over to our YouTube channel page and hit subscribe because we are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. We're 30 some away uh, from getting that sweet 1,000 mark and that sweet YouTube money. I can just taste it. I can taste me YouTube money. We found of
Yeah.
gold. But anyway, yeah, we're compelled by Schlock,
Yeah.
a show where we talk about schlocky movies. We go through and we talk about the good, the bad, and the schlock, what we like, what we didn't like, and then Schlock is kind of a catch-all where we talk about what are the things that stood out to us in this movie. Do we think there are any big ideas in it? We don't know. We just like to see where it goes.
Yeah.
So before we do that, though,
Mhm.
we like to do a little segment called
Web
Web of Schlock.
of Schlock. Yes.
Schlock! Hawk,
Schlock,
hawk,
schlock,
hawk,
schlock.
hawk, hawk.
Yeah. We'll keep it short and to the point. Uh, I am going to come back to Web of Schlock at the very end to mention one
Okay.
other thing, but I'll wait on that.
We
So
might be on the same page.
I think we're on the same page.
Okay.
Obviously, Warwick Davis, Willow, Harry Potter, Leprechaun 1 through 6, Labyrinth, Star Wars, Ewoks. I mean, a
Mhm.
great, great actor.
Yeah.
I think, well, I guess technically probably the first thing I saw him in was as an Ewok, but like Willow was probably my first, like, oh, that's him. And
Right.
I
Well, it's one of the only things where he's not
covered,
covered
yeah,
up in makeup.
yeah. And I've loved him as an actor ever since. He's always
Mhm.
enjoyable to see in the roles he does. Um, Jennifer Aniston,
Mhm.
some show called Friends. But also she's been in a lot of really good comedies. We're the Millers, Office Space. She's done pretty well. I think most people watching the show probably know who she is.
Has she done anything serious
Yeah, she's had some serious roles in there, but
like
a lot of
lately? I mean, post fame.
yeah, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. It's the romantic comedies and the comedies are what come to mind
That's
first. But yeah, there are.
kind of her bread and butter.
Correct. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Um, I also want to mention Robert High Gorman, who played the kid Alex in this show.
Mm-hmm.
I always love when I see actors from my youth pop up in other things. And this, I'm like, oh, I know him. So he was in Sometimes They Come Back, the Stephen King.
Oh.
He was in Mr. Nanny. But what I knew him from was Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, because I think I watched that like way too many times as a kid growing up. So I'm like, oh, it's Walter. So I love that. I love that feeling when you're like, oh, I know him. And so a shout out to that guy who he did a lot of TV and some other movies until like 2009. And then maybe he gets retired or did something, but he hasn't done anything since then. But definitely always enjoyed him in any movies I saw. And then we can go to the director, Mark Jones. He directed Nightman. He directed this. His last feature was called Scorned. It was in 2013. He's working on a feature right now, at least according to IMDb, called Cruise of the Dead.
Okay, that sounds cool.
But what he followed up this with was Rumpelstiltskin. Did you ever see that?
I think I did. Because again, I went through a Leprechaun phase, and I couldn't find it. It's in my childhood home, locked away somewhere. But I think I made like a drawing of the Leprechaun and Rumpelstiltskin,
nice,
fighting each other. And, and that's really what we should have gotten. We should have gotten some Leprechaun versus movies.
We still can.
I think we could.
Yeah. If you liked this, you check out Rumpelstiltskin. It's different, but it's the same. It's you had a formula and it worked.
Does it have Sigourney Weaver in it, or is that like evil Snow White or something?
That's
like
evil.
She
Snow
did
White.
Something like that.
Yeah, no.
Maybe it came out around the same time. I'm not sure.
Possibly.
But yeah,
I can't remember. But yeah, no.
We might have to revisit Rumpelstiltskin.
But the other thing, and this might just be able to dovetail right into Schlock for us, is Mark Jones. That's what he directed. But as a writer, he's been writing since the mid 70s. He wrote 25 episodes of The A-Team, which is pretty awesome. But let me just read some of the other things he's wrote. Scooby's Laugh Olympics, Captain Caveman, Super Friends, What's New, Mr. Magoo, Fangface, Yogi's Space Race, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, Heathcliff, Alf the Cartoon, Mr. T the Cartoon, all the way up into Police Academy, the animated show, James Bond Jr., Mega Man cartoon. This dude was all about Saturday morning cartoons, and that's definitely
makes so much sense.
Yeah, like the first thing I wanted to bring up in Schlock, if we're gonna just transition into Schlock.
Sure, let's get right into the Schlock, brother.
Is the Looney Tunes fence when he like runs off and slams through the fence and it leaves his body,
the outline.
Yeah, I'm like, this is straight up Looney Tunes. And then after I'm done watching it and I see that, I'm like, it makes perfect sense, because the whole thing has like this whimsical Saturday morning kind of feel.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there was supposed to be even more of that. Like I think that they filmed a scene that didn't make it in, where he gets ran over and he like gets flattened like a pancake, which is really weird, because in 2 and 3, so this movie was originally supposed to be, I'll get back to 2 and 3 in a second. This movie was originally supposed to be more for kids. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be strictly PG-13 or if it was possibly meant to be PG, but I think it was supposed to be more on the level of like the R.L. Stine, Goosebumps type shows.
Monster Squad even.
Right. And then they decide like, no, we want this to be an R-rated movie, so they went back and refilmed some stuff, close-ups to like make things more bloody. You'll notice a lot of the gore is like really close up. Well, that's because it's after the fact.
That really makes a lot of sense to me, but keep going.
Well, so in 2 and 3, right, you've had your runaway success of Leprechaun 1, a rated R movie, and 2 and 3. I think they're starting from knowing that it's going to be a rated R movie, and so I think you lose some of that in for more blood and gore and boobs. But in Leprechaun 4 is a very special movie because it is so schlocky.
And that's
It's
Leprechaun in
Leprechaun in
space, right?
space,
And see,
right?
that one I have not seen.
And they lean super hard into the jokes, into like they do a joke where so they want to do like the alien chest burster, right? That's how the Leprechaun comes back to life. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time. But instead of like a chest burster, it's a pants burster.
Right. Nice.
Right.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just watched a clip from it the other day where he like throws a platter or something at someone's head, and it does the pancake smash.
Nice.
Right. 4 sort of returns to form a little bit more.
Okay.
I think.
And see, that's some of my favorite stuff in this movie. But based on what you said, and I'll just touch on it briefly, this will kind of go into my bad, but it's not just bad. It can be talked about, Schlock. It's tonally all over the place because it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon.
We got the trifecta. We got Lance, the obscure movie guy, in the chat.
Yeah, what's up, Lance?
He says it's the blood, gore, and boobs is the trifecta of a great horror film.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Sorry, continue.
But it's tonally all over the place because it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, and then it feels like really dark, and then like the intro shot is super serious, and I'm like, you could make a really cool, very dark movie about a sadistic leprechaun. Like, you not comedic at all, treating it very, very dark, and that opening shot really had that for me. And then I don't get that really anywhere, which is fine because I like what I got, but it was kind of whiplash for me. I'm like, because I hadn't seen this movie since the late 90s. And so I remembered a couple things from it, but other than that, it was like a brand new watch. And it was just like, wait, what is this movie? And it took me about halfway through to really like catch on to what was going on. And that's when I'm like, no, it's a Saturday morning cartoon, and this is awesome.
Right. Like it takes you a second to get it. Right. Yeah, I think that Leprechaun Origins, where it makes it more of a straight up monster, I think they're trying to do more of the straight, it's like serious, like this is a terrifying like Lovecraftian creature of some kind.
Right. Which is, again, you can do that.
But yeah, it's interesting that you said it was kind of weird for you to get into it, because I swear I remember it being a much darker movie.
Me too.
Like watching it with Megan, she said that she didn't watch it when she was a kid because she thought it was going to be so scary. And I thought she was asking me like, who dies? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure everybody dies in this.
No one dies.
Totally wrong.
Yeah.
Well, the Mrs. O'Grady, she dies.
The two
there's a 4 body count in it.
Yeah, the cop,
O'Grady's, the cop, and
the pawn shop owner.
Right.
Yeah.
But I could have sworn it's like maybe a Mandela effect thing. I could have sworn that Ozzy, he swallows the coin.
I mean, they set it up for him to get like rips it out of him.
I thought I remember the leprechaun coming out of his stomach and like, I found me coin.
Right.
Like, I could have sworn it, man. But
and again, like,
I guess not.
That whole idea of like the PG kind of kids horror show versus like, or scary show versus like a hard R slasher. It's not just about the blood and guts. It's also about who dies. And so like you can have all this like kind of gross death, but it was really mainly just funny. But when none of the main characters, you don't really feel any of them in danger at all. I mean, even the dad who could have been killed, he gets bit on the hand and then goes to the hospital and is out of the show.
Well, see, I felt danger the whole time because, like I said, I thought everyone died. I had like this watching it this time, I had this sinking feeling that Ozzy's gonna get it, right? Like
Right.
maybe the most lovable character in the show. Like I just had the sinking feeling, like I'm pretty sure he's gonna get
He
ripped
would have
open,
been the only one who would have died. Yeah.
and I was like sad. I was sad for the character, and then the ending came. And I was like, oh, it's a pretty happy ending.
He found the
Uh,
four-leaf clover.
and so that actually, I don't know, like coming in with that expectation, like made the ending this time through a little more powerful for me because
Yeah.
I was like, I was on the edge of my seat due to a misconception, I
Right.
guess.
Or the Mandela effect. Either
Yeah,
one. We don't know what universe we're in, what
yeah.
version of.
It's when we tore open that hole in the universe that
I
it
mean,
changed.
2012 was 13 years ago.
Yeah.
We've been in this universe a while. So it's, I think, something I want to talk about because you brought it up in the beginning of how this was like scratched that same itch as Freddy Krueger did for you.
Hmm.
It's a slasher 100%, and it does a lot of what slashers are supposed to do, but it's also super unconventional as a slasher because that's not what it was originally meant for. But like the kills, some of the kills in this are some of the best you're going to get, like the pogo stick kill.
Well, and you're not going to get that. You, well, I was going to say you're not going to get that from Michael Myers, but I guess you would. Maybe you could. He would never like jump up on it. He would just like slam it
Right.
into you, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he would use it as a weapon. He wouldn't use it as the way it was supposed to be used, but then as a device for killing you. Yeah, it would just be something to bludgeon you with, not to actually pogo stick you to death.
Right.
Uh, yeah. Also, it's so silly. Like I love the setup of the that he shines shoes. Like it's like,
Mm,
the urban legend or the old lore of vampires that if you throw rice in front of them,
mhm.
they have to stop and count every grain of rice. Well, he's got to shine shoes in front of him. Like it's such a brilliant and super silly and campy, fun way to like throw them off their scent for a while to
Right.
like, yeah, I'm just like, oh, that is so great. A box of shoes and they're throwing them. And I'm like, this is brilliant.
Yeah, and I wanted to get into some of the Leprechaun lore a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, Apparently, so in the folklore, yes, leprechauns are shoemakers. He says, "I'm a shoemaker by trade, but I guess technically, shoemaking isn't their profession. It's just that they are so wily and running around so much, doing all their trickstering,
Hmm.
that they just have to like repair their shoes very often. So if you find a leprechaun,
It would
he might
behoove
be
them. Yeah.
repairing his shoes, and that's when you can snatch them,
Ah, okay.
snatch the con.
Good to know.
Yeah. So well, all sorts of little tidbits. Um, yeah, but that was a brilliant mechanism, tossing the shoes out. I really loved that. I thought it was ridiculous that they threw all of the shoes at
I would have
once.
saved
They
some. Like it would have been a great chase scene, but it like stops for every time they throw a shoe. Um, what's interesting though, again with that tonal shift, um, is when he mimics the kid's voice and the voice of a cat and the
Mhm.
voice of the dead wife. That is super creepy and that is super effective. Like
Right.
in a serious, dark version of this, that is very effective. And it's just interesting to see it like juxtaposed with like using shoes as a deterrent.
Yeah.
Something I wish they would have done more is the every time he got a little more gold back, he was getting his powers back, right? But it didn't manifest in a linear way that you could follow of like, oh no, he can't get another coin back because then he'll be able to do X and X will make us he'll be
Man,
able to
that's
open he'll be able to open doors with a wave of his hand if he gets 5 coins, that sort of thing. Because like you saw him like draw in the green power on his hand after he got the 1 coin, and I wish
yeah.
that would have been utilized more because I think that's a cool
Dude, that
idea.
is brilliant. Like
Yeah.
that totally should have been it, because I wanted to get into talking about his gold a little bit, right? He has that moment after Ozzy finds him and he tries to shut the door, and then Ozzy just opens it and goes out, and he's like, my powers are still weak. I need my gold.
Right.
Um, and let's see, there's something that I thought was really interesting. So during the opening scene, when he gets locked in the box, and O'Grady is trying to uh, burn him, is trying to set the box on fire. He says, "I've traded my soul for me gold, and you'll trade your life." And so it seems that, like, in this, his power is distinctly tied
To the gold.
to his gold, and
Yeah.
I think that's like a very interesting concept, of like, okay, what makes a leprechaun, right? It's like, in your Irish folklore, you have these fairy folk, that they I didn't write down any of the names of it, but there are apparently these different types of uh, fairies or sprites, and there are ones that are solitary and ones that are a troop, which I guess means like the troop, they hang out together. Solitary, they go off by themselves. It would
Friends.
be interesting uh, to say, like, okay, what makes a leprechaun? Okay, well, leprechaun is just like a regular fairy folk, but they trade their soul to gain power from their gold.
It's
Like,
it's it's the Schmiegel of Fey folk.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and I think that's very interesting. I think you bring up an awesome point of, like, man, if we could have seen him getting coins back one by one, and he gets more and more beefed up. I think it kind of happens, but
It does a
there's not a
little bit.
direct line drawn to that.
Correct. And it's such a cool power that it felt slightly undercooked. And I
Mhm.
really wish it would have been developed more because it's such a cool idea. This movie had a lot of cool ideas for how cheesy and campy it is.
Mhm. Well, and unfortunately, so it has this awesome gold idea in it. It has the four-leaf clover, right? He's weak by a four-leaf clover. That's the only thing that can defeat him.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, a lot of that goes away in the later movies,
Does
and
it? Okay.
I think the big thing in the other movies is cold iron, or something like that, which is also a fairy tale trope, that the
Right.
fairy
Right.
folk can't be touched by cold iron. Um, but it's really a shame that they set up some good mythology here of a
Yeah.
poorly, or this thing that you can't find.
Right. And it's
Is
such a
how
small,
you defeat
simple
it.
thing that's gonna hold him back, but also it's really rare. So like it's just like again, like really scary, but also like, yeah, but we just throw a shoe at him and he's fine. Honestly, who throws a shoe?
Right? Yeah. Uh,
Right?
but that's a good deterrent. Um, Oddly enough, shooting him is a good deterrent. Like, I
Yeah.
was honestly surprised at how well shooting him worked.
I mean, it really buys you some time.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he's got to go away and heal for some time. What if you had a four-leaf clover bullet? That's where the
Right.
other movie should have gone.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Well, I mean, the end of this one kind of got there where he like wraps it in a gum and then uses the slingshot and then has
Mhm.
the immortal line, the best line of the movie.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of that, about that? Because I was gonna put that into my bad, but I wasn't sure, because it's not bad. I love the moment.
Okay,
It's
so
more that
it wasn't
the
set up at all.
slingshot.
Was
Well,
not set up.
the first time you see the kid, what's his name, Alex.
Uh-huh.
I think the first time you see him shooting a slingshot at Ozzy, and then you never see the slingshot again.
Yeah, I would have
And
liked to seen it one more time, but I loved it.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we're on the same page for that.
Yeah, it's
I needed just one more thing of the
one
slingshot.
more time for it to work, but it's such a cool moment that I don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
The
fair.
other thing I want to ask you about, do you think this is one of the first horror movies to deal with the cell phone problem?
Oh, That's an interesting question. I did put that down on my notes. So like, man, she's got a cell phone. It's a big
Yeah,
brick, but
right. But
um,
the battery dies right when they need it, which is like
yeah,
classic horror movie. Like they solved the problem right out the gate. I'm sure someone listening or watching, let us know in any comment a movie that a horror movie that does this before the Leprechaun.
surely there's a movie prior to this that has like one of like the bag phones in it.
Probably,
I would think, but it's interesting, right? You say that they solve the problem, right, by having the battery go dead, but
right?
it's like a problem that they maybe never needed to introduce in the first place. I mean, now you have to say something about the cell phone because everyone
Correct.
has
Back
one.
then,
Then
well, I mean,
it's a luxury item.
it's a luxury item, but it did set up Jennifer Aniston's character Tori as being like the city girl in the
Hmm.
country, right? So, but there are many ways to do that. She could have had a designer bag that like she's like, here, have this instead of gold. You know, there's lots of ways to set up that she's
Right.
pretentious and hoity-toity and all that. A cell phone's a quick way to do it, especially in the early 90s when a lot of people didn't have anything like that.
Right.
But it totally like that's I don't I can't remember an earlier movie that addressed the cell phone problem in horror, which is interesting to me. I'm sure there is
Yeah.
one, but right now that is the earliest one that I can remember or think of.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting. Let's talk about Jennifer Aniston
Okay.
a little bit. Um, so apparently she is not happy that she was in this movie.
Well, I've read multiple things where that was how it was for a while, but then she came
Mhm.
around to appreciate it. Not enough to
I
go
don't,
to a con or something,
yeah, I don't think she's going to be signing autographs
but
anytime
she's
soon
not
for
gonna
that.
like deny that she was in it
Yeah, well,
anymore. Yeah.
according to Warwick Davis, she did deny for a long time
Right,
that
that
she
I
was
think
in
we
it.
read the same little thing, and then finally came around and said, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I was
Yeah,
totally."
well, I mean, the thing is that like watching this movie, it feels like it feels like you can just really see the amount of effort that people put into this. Like I always talk
Yes,
about like what's something that feels like it was maybe fun to create. This
this
feels like
is
it was a fun movie to make,
very
and I
fun.
could see like if you were Warwick Davis, right, and this is like one of your favorite movies that you've done, and
Mhm.
to make it and to go through this process, it seems like maybe kind of a grueling process, and then your co-star gets ultra famous and then is just like, oh no, I never did that. How that could be like a little biting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Um, since we're bringing up Jennifer Aniston, what was interesting to me, because when I had watched it back in the '90s, I hadn't watched a lot of Friends, but then 20, 30 years later, I'm watching it, and it's like Rachel's in a horror movie.
Right.
Right? Which is
Yeah.
it's a super anachronistic way of looking at it, but, like, I'm like, "No, I'm just watching, like, an adventure that Rachel got in before she moved."
Right. Well, what's funny is in Friends when they do flashbacks of her, she like they play up the joke where she is pre nose job.
Right,
And so when you watch this movie and it's pre nose job, it's like, oh yeah, this is what Rachel is doing.
right,
Like this is
exactly.
her.
Yeah, I'm like, it would be great if you just would've, like, redubbed, whenever they say Tori to Rachel.
I want the Rachel dubbed
I
version.
want the Rachel Dove version of this because, I mean, you and I have argued crazier things, but why can't Leprechaun and Friends be a shared universe?
Right. Maybe Tori is
Maybe she
or
changed her
Rachel.
name.
One of them's a middle name.
Yeah, yeah, or
Tori
she, like
Rachel, Rachel
she
Tori.
she went into hiding after this and changed her name and moved to the big city and
Well, and I see that we have some things in chat. We're going to get to them at the end of this segment, so don't feel like we're ignoring you. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I want to keep going with Jennifer Aniston for a second. It's funny that there's such kind of a rocky history there because apparently the studios didn't want her
Oh,
uh, prior because they wanted like a blonde valley girl,
Okay.
for the part, and they said that Mark Jones said, "Oh, we'll dye her hair before," and then they just
Never
didn't
did.
do it.
Nice.
Which I mean, studios make bad decisions, man.
It's
Like
true.
who knew, right? Who knew that they would have
Right?
had like a basically a megastar be in their movie? But another interesting tidbit: this movie got her to be named as one of the top 10 final girls, slasher movie final girls in Venezuela.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. I thought she did fine as a final girl.
Yeah,
My favorite sequence of hers was the nursing home sequence, which is one of my favorites in the movie because it's so off the wall.
and
Like
it's her
when
by herself.
it's her by
Like,
herself.
right, she's carrying it on her own.
She's doing the final girl thing. She's carrying it on her own and she does a really good job. Um, but it's got the Dutch angles, it's got the like cameras that like make you nauseous, it's got like overcranked
Mhm.
sped up film, it's super Looney Tunes, it's also kind of creepy in there. And then when he's like, there's only one way to kill a leprechaun, but I'm never gonna tell you.
I'm never
And
gonna tell you.
and then the chase scene with the wheelchair, and it's just it's just so great. Like
Yeah.
if there's one sequence that's like emblematic of what this whole movie stands for, it is that. It was
Hmm.
just a lot of fun, and I thought she did a great job as a final girl. That's really the chunk of the movie where she gets to shine on her own, because
Hmm.
at the beginning she's afraid of spiders, she's afraid of other things, but then she's challenged by her love interest, and she's like, well, no, you know what, if you're going to call me out, I'm going to stand up for myself. And she does that. She doesn't get the final kill, but she helps out. So yeah, good final girl.
I mean, she like carries it all. I mean, not not Jennifer Aniston herself, but the character
Yes.
like carries the group
Yeah.
through the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently she was offered $25,000 for the sequel, to do a sequel,
Mm-hmm.
which she did not take. Um,
Probably smart.
and they I think they reworked the script where the leprechaun is trying to get revenge and take her as his bride.
Oh,
And
nice.
I don't know if I don't know if that's Leprechaun 2 or Leprechaun 3 in Las Vegas, where right they're going to get hitched or something.
I need to go back and see them all because I don't remember
Yeah,
that. That must have been part 3 because I don't remember that. But
yeah.
shoot, could
But
be any of
man,
them.
how much would you love like a legacy sequel where we have Warwick Davis, we have Jennifer Aniston back, and she's like I just want to pitch this out here to you.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
She's like she's become some sort of scientist who is heavily researching like genetic manipulation on clovers so that you can get four-leaf clovers.
Because she knows there's a war coming.
Right, like because well, there's things that go bump in the night
Yeah.
that you can't fight without such a thing. Um, and I mean, you could bring back a lot of the people. Uh, I don't. I'm gonna have to look up the actor's name. I don't. Did you bring him up in? Did bring up Ozzy in Web of Schlock?
I did not know. Mm-mm.
Ozzy, Mark Holton,
Yeah.
who is also in he's in the Pee Wee movies.
Yep. Yep.
That's where I recognize him from. I can't remember the character. I'm
Yeah. He was
totally
in
brain farting it. If
he was
someone can
he's been
tell
in a
me, that would
lot of
be great.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but so it would be great to see him again. It would be
They're all
great to
still
just be
alive
like
and kicking.
the cast. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think the O'Grady's are.
No, but they were the characters that were alive at the end of the
Yeah.
movie are still alive in real life.
Well, I mean the actors in real life also. So
Right. Yeah.
no
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
flashbacks.
Okay. Yeah. No
But
flashback with
but
that.
I would love to see them all together again for like some last hurrah where it's like
See,
on
and
the level of I don't know, Leprechaun in space, but like with the original cast. I think that would be so great.
oh, I mean, no one does a legacy sequel for a movie that doesn't need it with like A-list actors, because this movie has A-list actors, right?
It does, yeah.
I mean, the two leads, Warwick and Jennifer Aniston, they're A-list actors. They're good actors. They're in really big movies. It would be amazing to get like an actual budget and just treat it like super serious. Not the movie itself. The movie should be campy and funny, but like just
Right.
like this does not need 10 million, $40 million, but we're doing it. We're doing it.
Right. Exactly.
I would love that.
Do you have anything else for Schlock?
No, that's it.
Well, let's get to these comments real quick. Lance, I don't know if he's still in the chat or not, but he brought up, we were saying that that we thought the movie was darker, and he says, I think the trailer played it more as a horror than a comedy, and that may be where the misconception is, and I think that's probably very
accurate.
correct.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure that I think when what am I trying to say here? When people initially saw it, they didn't realize that it was supposed to be a horror comedy. They just thought it was a bad horror movie.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, see, Megan did some research for us on the cell phone issue. It says Silence of the Lambs, 1991, American Psycho, 91, Someone's Watching Me, 1978, and The Stepfather, 1987.
So I'm thinking that Someone's Watching Me is probably not a cell phone, or it might be like one of those brick ones with 78, but Stepfather could totally be.
That sort of fits that genre of not high class, but like rich, right? Like upper middle class neighborhood, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll have to do like a series of reviews on horror movies that use cell phones originally.
Like start taking them off. Yeah. Well, if you don't have any more schlock, let's move into the bad. Of Leprechaun. I have a lot of bad, so
I have a lot of bad too.
Okay, it's not because I don't like this movie. It's just
I love this movie.
Things to pick out. Well, kick us off, man.
Okay, the long intro. It's 10 minutes of these two characters that, I mean, they kind of tangentially are part of the plot because they bring the gold here and they bring the leprechaun and trap him. But like, it was 10 minutes. I'm like, and then we have to meet the characters, and it's an hour and a half movie. I'm like, man, that's just should have done it in like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
It just I think so.
They could have done it in pictures. Right? They could have done the animated intro, and we would have gotten everything.
Some of the bad I have is not necessarily bad, but I wrote it down before I realized what the movie was, because this is a bad for me. Tonally, it was all over the place. Once toward the second half of the movie, it really kind of leaned into the Looney Tunes, and that's when I'm really on board. But before that, it's kind of just all over the place, and so that was a problem for me. And again, that's because you're taking something and reshooting it to make it something it wasn't, which I'm glad you did. I'm glad it exists for what it is, but it's still, that's a bad for me.
Something that's really interesting. Something that's really interesting in the intro to the movie. That I honed in right away is Warwick Davis's voice is much lower. Like he's using more of his normal voice rather than the high pitch, I'm the Leprechaun voice. Like he's speaking in a lower tone, which makes it seem more like a horror movie, right? Like he seems more threatening.
Yeah. So the characters are very broad. The paintbrush strokes were just super broad, and again, for a Looney Tune thing, that's fine, but for the setup, I had 10 minutes of these two old people hamming it up, and then I have 10 more minutes of introducing all the main characters who are also, I think they're all pretty good actors, but they were instructed to play it broad, which is fine because it's a cartoon, but it like in the beginning it threw me off because I'm like, is this dark? Is this supposed to be a horror movie? Is this, because I don't think any of these characters are real. None of them are
they're
real
caricatures.
Yeah, they're caricatures. That's it. I thought the basic story could have been better. It's just this family gets this rental place that they're gonna fix up. Also, she looks way too old to be his teenage daughter.
Yes.
And he looked way too young to be her dad. I mean, he did look older than her for sure, but
It
it's
looked
more
like a
like
sugar daddy situation.
it totally did. And it kind of played that way at first. I'm like, this is kind of awkward. And I had to look
Yeah.
how old she was when she filmed it. You know, I'm like, she would have been like early 20s, but I'm like, she just has that like late 20s vibe, which she's always kind of had. So the basic story could have been better because it's just these two people and then the painters who are painting the house. Right. And they just so happen to all pick the house that has the leprechaun trapped in the basement. And like, why was there a rainbow that showed him where the gold was? Why did it show Ozzy that, but it couldn't show the leprechaun before when he was trying to find it? Like, it wasn't explained at all.
Yeah.
And that was a
There's
problem.
no motivation for it.
Yeah. And it looked awesome. Like when that rainbow goes over and it's so like fake, but like saturated and cool. I really liked it. I just like, why is this happening?
Right.
And then, again, internal logic, which is a weird thing to complain about in a movie like this, but like, why was the cop killed? Why waste time on the cop? If you wanted to kill him right when he got pulled over, that's fine because he's in the way. But if the leprechaun's motivation is to get his gold, and once he's scared the cop or gotten away from him, there's no need to sadistically hunt and torture him and waste your time on this character who does not have your gold. Right.
Yeah.
So like,
let me throw out two things to you.
okay.
One, he's a trickster. He potentially gets enjoyment out of that. Something I would love to see in a later movie. I don't know if this happens or not, but the idea is that I guess he just sits over his crock of gold all the time. Like when he has all of his gold, he just
He's like a
sits over it and
little
like
tiny
looks
dragon.
at it. Yeah, like and like you said, like Golem, right? He's just
Right.
my precious.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if like, or to see this scene somewhere, right? If he's just spent 60 years looking at his gold, now he's bored and he like kind of does something to where
Someone
his gold gets away from him, so he has like an excuse to
go kill,
cause some mayhem.
Yeah. Like I buy that he's a trickster and that's fine, but I think it would have made for a stronger story if he would have killed the cop right away, and then we could have had maybe a different sequence where he attacks someone we actually care about, or he lets the cop go once he escapes because he's focused on the gold.
Yeah. Well, the other part of that is, and this isn't internal logic at all, but this was absolutely part of the R rating. Like they added in that scene to bump up their R rating.
Correct. Add a kill.
It was supposed to end after he grabs his face, and then he was supposed to just keep on going.
Gotcha. And so I'll do one more bad, and then I'll throw it to you. The killing the pawn shop guy. I loved that he used the pogo stick. I love that he steals the little miniature car, which is amazing. But like, if when he gives him the piece of gold back, that actually causes the leprechaun to be like, okay, now I'm going to go get the rest of my gold. Right.
Yeah.
I have no problem with him killing the pawn shop guy because he wanted to, because he enjoys it. But it would have added a degree of hope that the audience would have known about, that our main characters would have to learn about. So our audience toward the end be like, just give him the gold, because they would have seen it work.
Well, and that's the thing, is that if he leaves the shop owner alone, it puts Ozzy into more danger in a way, because they can't give him the gold. There is a solution: give him the gold and he'll leave, but they can't give him the gold.
Right.
But in this way, it's like, well, even if he like barfs up the coin, he still might just kill them for fun.
Yeah, that's that idea of hope of like, you talked about how you like, I could probably ration, with this character, I could probably argue my way out of a ticket, right? I'd be like, hey, here's your gold, We didn't even know it was here because it was the Grady's who took it, not us. Sorry to make you upset. Please leave us alone. And then he does, right? And
Yeah.
even in the end, if he decides to kill him, and the twist is like, well, I have me gold, but I still am going to kill you. That's a fun twist at the end because the audience is like, well, he tricked us too. But if he would have if he would have spared the pawnbroker's life, I think it would have made for a much stronger film and a much scarier, more suspenseful, intense Act 3. One little change. So that's
well,
it.
Like, and at the end, the cops come screaming out to the property,
Right.
and it's like, well, why? Oh, yeah, I mean, you would have had someone open to figure that out. Also, speaking of cops, this is something that went completely out of my mind. I loved the sheriff.
Oh yeah.
In the cop station. I wish there was more of that guy. I'm going to put that in my bad. There should have been more of him.
There's totally should have. Yeah.
He just had a look, man.
He did. He was a great character actor. I just like, this guy's got a story. All right, what do you got for bad that I haven't brought up?
Okay, well, I think we actually have some different bads. My first bad, the music, not the score per se, but the the song that they're playing. It's like the only song in the movie is something, My 4-Leaf Clover, some 90s crap. You're telling me that there's not some readily
Irish
available
Rover,
public domain Celtic music?
Correct. Yeah, I agree. And the score, it was good, but it wasn't great. And then the music choice for the song, I agree. That was a weak point for the whole film. I'm with you.
Yeah. Let's see. My second bad is that the dad is useless. Like, there's almost zero reason.
Dad.
If it's even her dad, right, all he does is he just gets her out there, and that's basically it. They get rid of him right away by taking him to the hospital. I thought it was super weird that, like, they just get to this place, they're looking around, they come outside, and there's like this hunk who's painting their house, and he and the daughter are like really flirting back and forth, and the dad's just like,
hey. It wasn't a cat, Dad. I know what it feels like to have a man rub my legs. You know that? Yeah.
Like,
super awkward.
There's just such a weird dynamic there that like maybe there should have been some tension between him and Nathan, him and the hunk, or maybe be like, oh yeah, these are the guys that I hired to come out here. I know them. I've talked to them before. They're my cousins. I don't know.
For the last month. Glad to meet you.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything.
I just said that they could be cousins. That probably wouldn't work for what was going on in the story. But
I mean, not in North Dakota. If they would have removed it to like Alabama or something, fine. Sorry.
Yeah. So that was odd. I think that's kind of on the internal logistic side.
Right. Yeah.
And I will throw out also with that, why weren't they utilizing that Jeep? They come out in this like brand new Jeep, and they're gonna try and run away from the leprechaun in this shitty truck that doesn't start.
That only the kid can fix.
Right. Like
I
made zero sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you could like toss boots out of the back of the Jeep or something.
Right.
I don't know. Just the entire time I was looking at it, I'm like, use the Jeep.
Have you seen our read of Mice and Men?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm waiting to see the connection.
I just got that vibe from Alex and Ozzy the whole time.
Oh, that's absolutely what it is.
Yeah. And like, we'll get an operation for you. But I thought it was going to be similar to the end. Like, I'm like, well, maybe Alex, like, to save everyone else, just straight up sacrifices Ozzy to the leprechaun.
Oh, man.
I'm like, sorry, Ozzy, you shouldn't have ate the coin. Here, have him.
Apparently, Ozzy was supposed to have a pet through the whole thing. He was supposed to have a frog, but they didn't want to have a pet wrangler on set. They didn't want to have to deal with it.
They should have had like a stuffed animal or something. And they like thought it was real. Yeah, I was like, they're homaging of Mice and Men, so maybe they're gonna take it to a really dark place, but they didn't.
They could have. And my last bad for it is theme. What is the theme of the movie? And
Right.
it
Yeah.
feels like it's all over the place. Like they were just filling around, because you start
Mhm.
with Tori being a very, I guess, like materialistic person. Her dad says like, do you think money's going to solve all your
Right. Yeah.
problems, or
There
something
was
like that?
lots of money stuff, which you thought would tie in with like a pot of gold, but it really
Right.
doesn't. Yeah.
Right. The way they set it up, it's like she's gonna find the gold and not want to get rid of it, because she can buy the new big mansion somewhere
Right.
else
And
besides North Dakota.
again, that would have been a better plot. Like this movie has great sequences, a great fun energy, great actors. There's lots of things in it, but like the plot itself could have been so much better if she found the gold and then she starts spending it in town, and then he's got to go through and like kill different town folk
Hmm. Which I
because of
think
that.
is the next movie.
Okay.
It's one of the next movies.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, okay, what else you got for bad?
Well, and they get into like the you just gotta believe theme, right? Like it's kind of out of nowhere. Um, yeah, they just have a solid through line on,
No, and
what is the movie about?
I think horror suffers from one of two things, like a really heavy-handed themes that you're hit on the head with, are really just no theme at all, or just kind of a nebulous idea. And I think you see that a lot in horror movies, unfortunately.
Right, right. Yeah, so that's my last ad.
Yeah,
Lance is saying there is a lot of bad in
you're
this.
right. You're right. I'm not saying it's
Yeah,
a good
you're not
movie. I'm
wrong.
saying I really like the movie.
But Lance, the
Oh,
movie, because we're moving to the
the
good.
good. What's good?
Get the
Yeah.
old here.
Yeah.
What's
You want to
good? Yeah.
start? You want me to start?
Sure. I'll
Either one.
start. I'll start
Okay.
because there is such a huge good for me in this movie, that like I've been biting my tongue on it this entire time.
Oh, I want to
Uh,
hear it.
the makeup effects.
Yes.
Warwick Davis. Uh, I had no idea. Like I loved Willow when I was a kid. Loved Willow. One of my all time favorite movies. Like I said, I went through a Leprechaun phase. I had no idea that was Warwick Davis. It was before I read
Paid attention
things.
to yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, before I paid attention to anything. Had no idea it was Warwick Davis. And even like looking at them now, knowing that it's him, it looks like the facial structure looks different. The
Mm-hmm.
the makeup effects are amazing. Got to give a big shout out to uh man, I tried writing his name down, the effects guy. Let's see. I want to give him a shout out
Yeah,
here.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'll say a good while you're looking for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, say good.
Also, the his costume, everything about Warwick Davis in this as the Leprechaun. I thought the makeup, the
Oh,
costume, his performance,
absolutely.
like he steals the show, and rightfully so for campy horror sequels that he has 6 of them.
Yeah, I mean these movies are Warwick Davis. He looks so great in his costume. It's kind of funny. I'll make this joke because Warwick has made it as well. He says that like when he sits down, he looks like a Muppet because of his little legs. But the thing is like his tights and the socks and stuff. Like there are some great poses that he
Oh,
strikes
yeah.
in this movie. Um,
He's rock
I mean,
starring it.
yeah, and
Yeah, totally.
he looks so good. He's doing it all in heels. Um, Man, the costuming, the makeup is just so great in this movie. I found the name of the person who made the sculpture for the face, Gabriel Bartalos. Uh,
Yeah, good job, Gabe.
excellent
Yeah.
job with that. Apparently, he originally designed it to go in 3 different phases, like as he like gets darker and more evil. And I think
Okay.
you see one when he's like melting
At the end,
uh,
yeah, which is
at the end.
so great.
Yeah, but man, that is the absolute best part of the movie. I just cannot believe it. I almost believe the Leprechaun is like a real person because like they just brought him to life so well.
Yeah.
Let's see. On top of that, to just kind of keep going with that, I was saying earlier that it really feels like people put their all into this movie. So I think there were very few, or what am I trying to say? The actors did a lot of their own stunts.
Yeah.
I was trying to look it up. I'm not sure if it's like actually credited in the movie, but apparently, so Warwick Davis did a lot of his own stunts. Jennifer Aniston did a lot of her own stunts. But it looks like Tony Cox and Deep Roy were actually stunt doubles in this for the Leprechaun for a couple of scenes.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and I think Tony Cox shows up in one of the sequels. I don't think Deep Roy shows up at all, but that was just really interesting, right? When you see movies that have some sort of attrition to them, I don't know. I feel like it makes for a stronger product in some way, right? Like people are actually like sweaty and tired and worn down, and injects into the characters more.
The blood and sweat and tears of the cast and crew is directly visible on the celluloid.
Right. And to keep going with that, so the costuming, the design of this, you can tell that a lot of look at everyone's they're supposed to be specific reflections of their personalities. So Tori is wearing LA gear. Taylor's because he's, you know, like Alex is wearing Reeboks. You got the buckle shoes for Leprechaun, right? They're all supposed to, yeah, right. They're supposed to say something about each one of them. Like I said, a lot was put into this movie, and I think that you see it, right? At the very least, it's a fun movie, and the people who made it enjoyed what they were doing.
100%. Yes.
And then my last one, I mean, this is just all kind of together, but Ozzy and Alex, that pair, the mice and men thing, that really worked for me. Like I cared for those characters. I wanted to see them survive. Like I said, I thought that they died, so I was on the edge of my seat, hoping that they would survive.
They lasted one more scene. When are they going to die? Oh, right. The credits. They lived. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was a good dynamic. I mean, you know, there's definitely cheesy dialogue, some question deliveries, whatever, but the dynamic is there, and I think that it worked really well.
I 100% agree with you. I have a lot of the same good. Some specific things, you know, like we talked about in a lot of the schlocky things at the beginning, like the mimicking voices, the box of shoes, all the little bits that add up to something really fun. I really loved the opening shot. It sets the tone for a completely different movie, but like him coming down those stairs and that like cave-like thing and his pot of gold, and he's like speaking in rhyme, and then the shaft of light comes in. I was like, oh man, this is much cooler than what I remember. And then it was something completely different, which is fine, but that opening shot was so cool. And I really liked Act 3. I thought it really kind of came into its own, and like that's where the Looney Tunes really comes out, and you really see it gets its stride there. So I really liked again, a confusing kind of slow beginning, but as it went on, I'm like, I got on board. So yeah, those are my goods. And then we had mentioned, you know, just Warwick Davis's performance and just him as the Leprechaun, the makeup, the effects. I also liked some of the practical effects of like when he gets his hand cut off in the door. And I thought he was going to open the door and then go in and attack him. I'm like, oh, that's a cool power we haven't seen before. But yeah, things like that I really, really liked. So
well, and it shows regaining his strength, right? He's got to like catch it and sort of like, yeah, you can stave off the Leprechaun for a little while, right?
Right.
You can't get him to stop, but you can slow him down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it I have for good. I do want to come back to Web of Schlock, like I said I would, to mention the
Yeah.
guy who played Nathan, Ken Olant, who also starred in a movie called April Fool's Day.
Oh, funny you mentioned that.
Why is that funny?
Because I don't know. Are we done with the show? I think
Yeah,
we're
we're
done with
done.
the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's play it out. This has been Leprechaun, but we are going to return next month. You know we love doing these special holiday shows. We're going to have an April Fool's Day special, not on April Fool's Day. The days just don't line up like they did this month. It's going to be on Monday, April 14th. Is that
14.
correct?
Yep.
Monday, April 14th, we will be joined by our good behind-the-scenes friend, Michael Schluter. He acts for us. He does casting for us. He does production assistance for us. He is a big help to us. You've seen him before. He's coming back. So April Fool's Day on April 14th. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. Below me is Chris Anonymous. Thanks everybody for showing up, jumping in the chat. We hope to see you next time. We've been compelled by Schlock. We will see you next month. See you suckers.
Wait, no.